The Xyloth, an advanced alien species from the distant galaxy of Zorith, had been watching Earth for centuries. From their high-tech ships hidden in the shadows of space, they observed the humans. The Xyloth believed themselves to be far superior. They had conquered many planets, and to them, Earth seemed like an easy target. The humans were primitive, their technology was no match for the Xyloths, and their cities were vulnerable. The invasion, they thought, would be quick and simple. The Xyloth knew that Earth was rich with resources, valuable minerals, water, and life forms that could be used for experiments. But most of all, they saw Earth as a planet full of weak creatures. Humans, in their eyes, were small, fragile, and unprepared to defend themselves. Their military forces were outdated, and their systems of government divided. The Xyloth had no fear of them. Their first wave of attack came suddenly. Without warning, massive alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere. They released high-powered energy beams that blasted through major cities, leveling them in an instant. New York, London, Paris, all fell to the might of the Xyloth. Governments tried to react, but they were overwhelmed. Fighter jets were destroyed before they could even launch, and cities were reduced to rubble. The Xyloth commanders smiled to themselves. This was exactly as they had expected. Humans had no hope of winning. The survivors scattered, running from the destruction, trying to find shelter. Panic swept through the streets, but even as the human race faced this disaster, something strange began to happen. In the middle of this chaos, small pockets of resistance began to form. Groups of soldiers, scientists, and ordinary citizens fought back. At first, their attempts were futile. Guns and bombs couldn't hurt the advanced alien ships, but humans didn't give up easily. They refused to simply bow to their conquerors. Among them was a young woman named Maya. She had lost everything when the Xyloth destroyed her home city, but she didn't run. She couldn't. In the ruins of what was once a thriving metropolis, she found other survivors, people who refused to give up. Maya, a computer engineer before the invasion, used her skills to help organize a small group of resistance fighters. Together, they built crude weapons from the wreckage of the alien ships. They used their knowledge of the land and the environment to plan their strikes. It wasn't much, but it was something. It was a spark of hope. The Xyloth, meanwhile, continued their attacks. They had underestimated the humans. They thought that after a few days of destruction, the humans would give up. But Maya's resistance, and others like hers, began to show the first signs that humanity wasn't as weak as the Xyloth had believed. The aliens, for the first time, began to worry. What if the humans weren't as easy to defeat as they had thought? They had invaded hundreds of planets before, but none had ever fought back like this. Still, they didn't understand the power that lay within humanity. It wasn't in their technology or weapons. It was in their spirit. They had a resilience that no alien force had ever faced. For now, the Xyloth remained confident, thinking their victory was all but assured. But deep inside, the human spirit began to awaken, and it would soon prove to be the Xyloth's greatest mistake. The Xyloth continued their invasion with relentless force. Each day, their ships hovered over Earth's cities, unleashing powerful energy beams that tore apart everything in their path. The alien soldiers descended to the ground, their weapons making quick work of human defenses. The Xyloth were confident, believing their superior technology would ensure a swift victory. They underestimated the humans. Maya, still in the ruins of the city, had seen the destruction firsthand. She had lost many of her friends and family to the alien onslaught, but something inside her refused to give up. She knew that if the humans were to survive, they needed to fight back. The Xyloth thought the humans would be easy prey, but Maya had seen their strength. She and her group of survivors began to plan their first attack. They knew it wasn't much. They didn't have advanced weapons or a fleet of ships like the Xyloth. But they had something the invaders didn't, the knowledge of their own planet. Maya and the others began to study the alien technology left behind in the wake of their attacks. They learned how to reverse engineer parts of the Psyloph ships, using their own resources to build makeshift weapons. They used the energy cores they scavenged from the wreckage to create bombs, while other survivors used old military tactics to ambush Psyloph patrols. On the outskirts of a destroyed city, Maya and her team set their first trap. They had learned that the Psyloph ships relied heavily on their energy shields, and without them, the aliens would be vulnerable. Using a combination of makeshift EMP devices and explosives, they attacked a small Psyloph ground base. The Psyloph soldiers were caught off guard, their shields temporarily disabled. For a few precious moments, they were just like any other soldiers, vulnerable to human weapons. Maya's team fought hard, launching attacks from hidden positions, taking out as many Psyloph soldiers as they could. The aliens were surprised by the humans' resistance. They had expected a quick victory, but now they were facing an enemy that refused to back down. The humans didn't have the firepower or the numbers, but they had something else. They had determination. The first strike was a success. The human resistance had dealt a heavy blow to the Psyloph, taking out one of their supply bases and capturing valuable equipment. The Psyloph were forced to retreat, and for a brief moment, Maya and her group felt a spark of hope. But the Psyloph were far from finished. They soon returned in greater numbers, sending reinforcements to Earth. The humans had won a battle, but the war was far from over. The aliens would not let this resistance go unanswered. Despite the overwhelming odds, the humans continued to fight. Every attack they launched, every strike they made, sent a message to the invaders. Earth was not an easy target. The humans would not surrender. The Psyloph began to realize that their initial assessment of Earth was wrong. This was not a planet of weak creatures. The humans were fierce, resourceful, and willing to sacrifice everything to protect their home. For the first time, the Psyloph started to question their own confidence. Could the humans actually defeat them? After the initial success, the human resistance felt a small but important shift in the battle. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about fighting back, showing the Psyloph that Earth wasn't a planet to be conquered so easily. Across the globe, people began to rise up, inspired by the bravery of the few who had struck back against the invaders. The fear that had once gripped humanity started to turn into something else: determination. Maya knew that the success of their first strike wasn't a fluke, that Psyloph had made a mistake by underestimating the humans, and now the resistance was growing. People everywhere were joining the fight. Military leaders, scientists, engineers, and civilians all banded together to form a united front. Earth had been divided for so long, with countries fighting their own battles. But now, all that mattered was survival. The world was beginning to unify in a way that had never been seen before. The resistance didn't just rely on brute force anymore. They were learning how to use the Psyloph's advanced technology to their advantage. Scientists worked day and night to study the alien weapons and spacecraft left behind after the attacks. Maya's team, along with other groups around the world, began to adapt these alien systems to fit their own needs. They didn't have the resources or technology that the Psyloph had, but they had creativity. They used their knowledge of Earth's natural systems to create traps and weapons that the invaders couldn't predict. In one part of the world, a group of engineers in a small hidden bunker managed to reverse engineer a piece of alien technology, a small but powerful energy shield. With this shield, human fighters could now defend themselves against the Psyloph's deadly energy beams. It was a turning point. The humans were no longer completely helpless. Meanwhile, in the skies above Earth, the battle was intensifying. The Psyloph had assumed that their air superiority would crush the human forces. But as more humans adapted to the alien technology, they began to fight back with their own spacecraft. The human ships were far less advanced than the Psylophs, but they were fast, agile, and most importantly, they were using guerrilla tactics. They struck quickly and disappeared into the atmosphere before the Psyloph could react. Maya's group, still operating from their underground base, developed a daring plan. They would infiltrate a major Xyloth communications hub hidden deep in the mountains. If they could disrupt the Xyloth's ability to communicate with their home world, it would slow down their attacks and buy humanity valuable time to regroup and strategize. It was a risky move, but they had no choice. They couldn't wait for a perfect moment. The time to act was now. As they prepared for the mission, Maya couldn't help but think of how far they had come. Just weeks ago, they had been nothing but survivors, hiding in the shadows of ruined cities. Now, they were a force to be reckoned with. That Xyloth had come to Earth, thinking the humans were weak. They thought they could wipe them out without effort. But the humans had proven them wrong. The Xyloth were starting to realize that Earth's people weren't just fighting for their survival. They were fighting for something much bigger. They were fighting for their home, their future, and their right to exist. And in that fight, humanity was awakening a strength that the Xyloth had never anticipated. The human resistance was no longer just a collection of small, scattered groups fighting for survival. It was becoming an organized force. Around the world, survivors joined together, and with each new person, their hope grew stronger. The once divided nations of Earth were now working together as one. Military leaders, scientists, engineers, and civilians had all come together, each offering their skills to the cause. They were united in a way that the Xyloth had never imagined possible. Maya and her team, who had become leaders of the resistance in their region, were planning something bold. They knew that the Xyloth would not just retreat because of a few setbacks. The aliens had come to Earth expecting an easy victory. But now, they had learned that the humans would not go down without a fight. Maya's mission, however, was far more dangerous than anything they had done before. They were planning to strike at the heart of the Xyloth's military power, a major alien warship that had been overseeing the invasion from space. The resistance had been watching the skies for weeks. They knew that if they could take down one of the Xyloth's flagship ships, it could turn the tide of the war. The human forces weren't as advanced, but they had learned from their mistakes and were using the Xyloth's own technology against them. Maya's team had found a way to hack into the Xyloth's communication systems, allowing them to send false signals that misled the aliens about the location of the resistance. They had even managed to reverse engineer some of the Xyloth's weapons, turning them into deadly traps for the invaders. But this mission was different. This time, they were going after one of the Xyloth's most powerful ships, an enormous, heavily armored warship that was responsible for coordinating the alien forces on Earth. Taking it down would be a massive blow to the invaders, and it was their best chance at crippling the Xyloth's hold on the planet. Maya, along with a small team of elite soldiers and engineers, was chosen to lead the mission. The plan was simple: sneak onto the warship, plant explosives at key points, and disable its power systems. The team would have to move quickly, strike hard, and escape before the ship could send reinforcements. Maya knew it was a long shot, but it was the best shot they had. As the team prepared for the mission, they knew the risks. The Xyloth's warships were heavily guarded, and their soldiers were skilled in combat. It would be a fight for their lives. But the humans had something that the Xyloth didn't: a deep sense of determination. The aliens may have had superior technology, but the humans had heart. They had the will to fight for what was theirs: Earth. When the mission began, the resistance moved in quickly, using the cover of night and the misdirected signals to get close to the ship. They infiltrated the alien vessel with precision, sneaking past guards and avoiding security systems. Once inside, they planted the explosives and began sabotaging the ship's power core. The tension was high. Every move had to be perfect, or they would be caught. But Maya and her team remained focused. They knew that failure wasn't an option. Just as they were about to make their escape, an alarm blared. The Xyloth had discovered the breach. The team fought fiercely, using every bit of knowledge they had gained about alien technology and tactics. They held their ground long enough for the explosives to detonate, causing a massive explosion that crippled the warship. The ship, now disabled, began to fall toward Earth. It was a victory, but it came at a cost. The team had to flee quickly, barely escaping the destruction. As they made their way back to safety, they knew that this was just one battle in a much larger war. But they had proven something important. Earth was not to be underestimated. The humans had shown that Tyloth what they were truly capable of, a fight that the aliens couldn't win. This was only the beginning. The resistance had struck a powerful blow, but the war was far from over. The Tyloth may have thought the humans were weak, but now they were learning that the human spirit could not be broken. And that was a lesson they would never forget. The explosion that disabled the Tyloth warship sent a shockwave across the battlefield. The humans had struck a mighty blow, but the war was far from over. The Tyloth, now in rage, sent reinforcements to Earth in a desperate attempt to regain control. Their fleets grew larger, their attacks more brutal. But the humans were no longer the helpless species they had once been. Every victory, no matter how small, made them stronger, more united, and more determined to protect their planet. In the wake of their success, the resistance began to take the fight to the Tyloth on a larger scale. Across the globe, human forces were organizing, strategizing, and launching coordinated attacks. Maya and her team had returned to their base after the mission, battered but alive, and they were met with a new sense of urgency. Earth's survival depended on their next steps. They needed to hit the Tyloth hard before they could fully regroup. Back in the human command centers, a breakthrough came. Scientists had been working tirelessly, studying the alien technology left behind after each attack. They had found something critical, a flaw in the Tyloth's energy systems. It was a weakness, small but significant. If the humans could target this weakness, they could cripple the Tyloth's entire fleet. The resistance immediately began to act on this discovery. Maya, now recognized as one of the leaders of the global resistance effort, coordinated a massive attack on a major Tyloth supply hub. This was a risky move, as the aliens were sure to be watching closely. But the humans had no choice. The Tyloth could not be allowed to repair their forces. The attack was carefully planned. The human forces, equipped with their new knowledge of the Tyloth's vulnerabilities, launched a surprise assault. Using new weapons and tactics, they breached the alien defenses. The Tyloth forces were caught off guard, their systems slower than before as they tried to respond to the sudden attack. The humans had found their rhythm. It was the first time in the war that the Tyloth felt genuinely vulnerable. As the battle raged on, Maya's team infiltrated the alien base. They worked quickly to plant charges on the critical energy systems, knowing that a single mistake could cost them everything. The mission was dangerous, but it was their best chance to deal a decisive blow to the Tyloth. Time was running out, and the humans had to act fast before the aliens realized what was happening. Maya and her team planted the final charge and made their way out, but not before they were spotted by a group of the Tyloth soldiers. A fierce firefight broke out as the humans fought their way through the base. The Tyloth, desperate to stop them, began to retaliate with full force. But the humans fought with everything they had. They had no choice but to win. Just as the Tyloth reinforcements closed in, the explosives detonated. The alien base erupted in flames, and the energy systems were destroyed. The resulting explosion sent shockwaves through the Tyloth fleet, crippling their supply lines and leaving them without the resources they needed to continue their invasion. The victory was hard-earned, but it was a turning point in the war. The Tyloth had suffered a serious setback, one they couldn't ignore. Their ships were damaged, their soldiers shaken, and their command structure thrown into chaos. For the first time, the humans had dealt a blow that the Tyloth could not simply recover from. Maya and the rest of the resistance knew that this was just one battle in a much larger conflict, but it was a victory nonetheless. The humans had proven that they could stand toe-to-toe with the Tyloth. And now, the invaders knew something they had never expected. Earth was not a planet to be conquered. The humans had awakened, and they were ready to fight for their home, no matter the cost. The war between humanity and the Tyloth had reached a tipping point, After the destruction of the alien supply hub, the Tyloth were reeling. Their once mighty fleet was now severely damaged, their resources stretched thin. The humans had proven that they were not an easy target, and this caused deep frustration within the ranks of the invaders. What had started as a quick invasion was now a drawn-out war, one that Tyloth hadn't prepared for. They had underestimated the resilience of the humans, and now they were paying the price. In response to the humans' victories, the Tyloth leadership grew desperate. They began to deploy their most dangerous weapons, determined to crush the human resistance once and for all. Entire cities were wiped off the map by overwhelming alien bombardments. The Tyloth used everything at their disposal: advanced lasers, devastating energy pulses, and massive ground forces that seemed unstoppable. But the humans did not back down. They had come too far and fought too hard to surrender now. Maya, recovering from the last mission, could feel the weight of the war on her shoulders. The victories were hard-won, and the cost of each one was high. The resistance had lost many brave men and women, and the constant battles were taking a toll on everyone. Yet, as the human forces regrouped, Maya saw something that gave her hope. Across the world, new resistance cells were emerging. People who had once feared the invaders now picked up arms to fight. It wasn't just soldiers anymore. Teachers, farmers, doctors, ordinary people were becoming warriors, united in the fight to protect their planet. Maya and her team had one clear goal now: to take the fight directly to the Tyloth's leadership. They knew that if they could destroy the alien command center, they might be able to end the war. It was a bold and risky plan. The Tyloth had set up a massive fortress on the dark side of the moon, where they commanded their fleet and oversaw the invasion. If the humans could infiltrate that base and strike at the heart of the Tyloth military, it would cripple the aliens' ability to continue the war. But it wouldn't be easy. The Tyloth were prepared, having learned the hard way that the humans could not be underestimated. Their moon base was heavily fortified with high-tech defenses, and its proximity to Earth's atmosphere meant that the human forces would have little time to react if things went wrong. Maya knew the risks. The mission would take everything they had. They would need to travel to the moon in one of the few remaining human spacecraft, infiltrate the base undetected, and sabotage its power grid. If they succeeded, it would be the blow that Tyloth could not recover from. If they failed, it could mean the end of the human race. As Maya prepared for the mission, she reflected on how far they had come. The world had changed. The humans who once cowered under the threat of alien invasion had transformed into fierce fighters. They had learned to adapt, to think like their enemies, and to fight in ways that the Tyloth could not anticipate. Every victory, no matter how small, had led to this moment. But even as she felt a sense of pride in humanity's strength, she knew the fight was far from over. The Tyloth were desperate, and their desperation made them dangerous. Maya's mission was only the beginning. If they were to succeed, they would need more than just strength and courage. They would need to outsmart the Tyloth and strike when they least expected it. The stakes had never been higher. Earth's future hung in the balance, and the humans were determined to win. The final battle for their planet had begun. The time had come. The Resistance was ready for its most daring mission yet. Maya and her team, along with a fleet of human ships, were preparing to infiltrate the Tyloth's command base on the moon. The stakes were higher than ever. If they succeeded, they could cripple the Tyloth's ability to continue the war. But if they failed, humanity would be crushed under the weight of the alien invasion. The humans had no illusions about how difficult the mission would be. The Tyloth had learned from their past mistakes. Their moon base was a fortress, surrounded by high-tech defenses, lasers, and armed patrols. It would take every bit of strategy, skill, and courage the humans had to make it inside and destroy the alien command center. Maya stood on the deck of one of the human ships, staring out into the endless darkness of space. The vastness of it all was overwhelming, but she knew she had to focus. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of Earth. She was no longer just fighting for survival. She was fighting for the future of the entire human race. The fleet of human ships, though smaller and less advanced than the Psylofts, had a secret weapon: determination. They had learned to fight smart, using their knowledge of the Psylofts' weaknesses. The humans had adapted alien technology, creating their own weapons, shields, and traps. They had become a force that the Psyloft had underestimated. And now the aliens would have to face the full force of that underestimation. As Maya and her team approached the moon base, the Psyloft detected their arrival. Alarm sirens blared, and massive defense lasers fired from the base. But the humans were ready. Using their speed and agility, they dodged the blasts and fought their way through the base's outer defenses. They had come this far, and there was no turning back. Inside the base, the human forces fought against waves of Psyloft soldiers, each one more determined than the last. The Psyloft were fierce, but they were not prepared for the sheer willpower of the humans. Every human soldier, every civilian fighter, fought as though they had everything to lose. They fought for their homes, their families, their planet. Maya's team pushed forward, making their way toward the heart of the base, where the alien command center lay. Along the way, they encountered heavy resistance, but they kept moving forward, refusing to be stopped. As they approached the command center, they planted explosives at key locations, sabotaging the alien technology that powered the base. The countdown to detonation had begun. But just as they were about to make their final escape, they were confronted by the Psyloft commander, the leader of the invasion. The alien leader stood before them, towering and menacing, its glowing eyes filled with fury. The Psyloft had underestimated humanity for too long, and now it was ready to end the fight once and for all. Maya stepped forward, her weapon raised. "This is for Earth," she said, her voice steady but full of conviction. The battle was fierce. The Psyloft commander fought with all its strength, using its advanced technology and weapons. But Maya and her team were not about to give up now. They had come too far. With one final powerful strike, they took down the commander, and the alien leadership crumbled. The explosions they had planted began to go off, and the base shook with the force of the blasts. The Hyla forces on the moon were thrown into chaos, their communication systems disabled, their command center destroyed. With their leadership gone and their base in ruins, the Psyloft had no way to continue their invasion. Maya and her team barely escaped the collapsing base as it exploded in a brilliant flash of light. They had done it. The Psyloft's reign of terror on Earth had come to an end. Back on Earth, the humans celebrated their victory. The Psyloft had underestimated them, believing they were easy prey. But the humans had proven that they would never be anyone's prey. They had fought with everything they had, and they had won. Earth was free. The humans had shown the galaxy that they were a force to be reckoned with. And though the war was over, the humans knew one thing for sure. They would never again be seen as weak. They had earned their place among the stars. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity had survived, and they would always be ready to defend their home, no matter the cost.